Hi, I'm Kelly Hurd, the life coach for busy working moms, and I help them to find the kind of work life balance that works for them. Happy pre spring. This is coming to be an exciting month. We are not only a spring around the corner, but we are coming up, believe it or not, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the COVID-19 restrictions of working from home and schooling from home and everything else remotely. But the good news is, vaccines are rolling out slowly but surely, and restrictions are slowly starting to be lifted. And that's very, very exciting. A lot of us are, some states have lifted them all together so far. Other states are slowly lifting things up and are lifting restrictions and opening things up. There are still some things that we can learn from this, specifically with regard to productivity and being able to stay productive while you are working from home and while your kids are with you. And even though we're right around the corner from things going back to, pre-pandemic life, I think it's still really important for us to visit this now for a couple of reasons. Number one is some of us still have a couple of months to go before things go back to quote unquote normal. And number two is I hate to sound a little negative, but part of me just doesn't think that this is the last that we've seen of a pandemic in our lifetimes. Maybe the last that we've seen while our kids are young. But even with that, I feel like now that businesses and schools have adopted to having to go remote very quickly and yet still expect everybody to be productive and to learn as best they can. I think that, of course, depending on where you live, whenever we experience inclement weather in the future, businesses and schools may just shut down and say, okay, you're working and you're learning from home now for today, at least. So I think it's still a valuable skill for us to learn for the next couple of months and then possibly in the future, but also something really valuable for us to learn because this is a skill that we can, staying productive, of course, is a skill that we can use when we do go back to our normal work situations. So there are ways that you can achieve work-friendly and goal-friendly structure in your home now for staying productive. Um, the funny thing is, a year ago, I mean, who'd have thought we would have gone a whole year of these restrictions? And, so many people started off with the best of intentions and the best of work habits, and were able to adapt quickly when we started all of these work from home and learn from home restrictions a year ago. But some people were not, and some people quickly just were very, very frustrated with it. And some women, some working moms were able to kind of white knuckle it for a while and still feel productive with their kids at home and their spouses at home. But then, eventually after it just, sort of started to become a little bit frustrating, so many moms just eventually gave up and threw their hands up and said, like, I just can't be productive. I've tried everything and nothing works and I just can't do this anymore. They've sort of adapted this kind of all or nothing thinking. And when I start working with moms who present this to me when we start coaching, I ask them to realistically, like, let's look at this factually. So realistically, how many times a day do your kids interrupt you? I want you to write it down. Actually, write it down. Write how many times the kids interrupted you in a day and how long the interruption took. Like, how long did it take for you to get them something to eat? How long did it take for you to break up the fight or to help them with that homework problem? The funny thing is, more often than not, it's not as much as we tend to create in our minds. So why do even a handful of interruptions in your day become so challenging and problematic to us? And the challenge of being productive in spite of interruptions in our daily workflow tends to happen in two big areas from what I see. The first is that we create negative emotions for ourselves by having thoughts that we shouldn't have to experience interruptions and that everything should go smoothly as if we are still in an office setting and working with all adults with the same goals pretty much as we have. And That's not blaming anybody by any means, but let me explain to you why we respond to uh, sudden changes in work situations and into the interruptions that result from it. Our human brains are wired to look for danger and to respond to it and react to it as quickly as possible in order to make it go away and to feel safe again. And in this case, in a work from home situation, that threat is, interruptions in our workday. And it's compounded by the fact that as moms, our biological wiring is to help our children in order to help them survive. So our wiring is stop what you're doing, help them with whatever it is that they need. If they're crying, if they're hungry, if they're fighting, if they're telling us they need help with homework, whatever it is they're telling us that they need help with. And of course, it's a survival mechanism that they're biologically wired with. So whenever they need something, they go to mom, their primary caregiver. And so they've been raised, their brains have rewarded them their whole lifetimes with whenever they go to mom, they get something that they want for food, comfort, whatever it is. And if they get turned away for some reason, say in the case that, now you're busy with work, their little brains tell them that that's a problem and they're at risk of danger or dying because they're being denied a critical resource that they need to survive. In this case, it's the resource of mom. So, especially since they're accustomed to having you, basically having like full access to you nights and weekends and, vacations and that sort of thing. And, you know, now they've been having to adapt to not being able to access you whenever they want to. And it's a little confusing for their little brains because you're working from home. So they do have access to you and then they don't. You fall back into your normal, mom child roles on weekends. But then when you come back to the weekday, we have that separation. And so when they have to adapt that way, they're just not used to it yet. And so even after a year of working and living this way and them learning this way, they're going to react the way their little primitive brains tell them to. So they're going to push back, they're going to cry, they're going to throw tantrums, they're going to invent reasons for mom to get mom's attention, unless they're older kids. And the older kids do it too, but just in a different way. And the good news is, even with this kind of what we find as frustrating behavior, nothing has gone wrong here with regard to how humans are biologically wired to interact and behave with one another. But of course, we've evolved since our, cave person days. And we aren't merely surviving now, we're thriving and we are equipped with much more advanced thinking. We have a prefrontal cortex. We are capable of more advanced logic and problem solving skills. So this means that adults, at least, have the ability to choose how we want to think about something. And we have the ability to choose how we want to react to something. Every minor sign of something being off doesn't mean that we're in real danger and that we have to react to it or respond to it right away. Um, and if we set a goal for ourselves to say to get some work done during the day, we don't have to see interruptions as frustrating negative things that are totally getting in the way of us accomplishing what we want to do. We can surpass our more primitive urges and choose not to react with negative thoughts and emotions, and thinking like, I just can't get any work done, or, why can't these kids just behave and leave me alone? And why do they have to interrupt me? Why does my boss have to interrupt me every 5 minutes? Why do my coworkers have to DM me every 5 minutes? And remember that interruptions and other challenges are an inevitable part of our current work from home environment, and that reacting with negative emotion is optional. So ask yourself, if you feel this way, if you're starting to feel, frustrated from this, ask yourself what really happened when you were interrupted. If we're able to view that neutral thing, like view what this thing that really happened as neutral and apart from yourself, we are more able to view it as something neutral and not negative. And we don't spend our valuable mental energy and focus on overcoming these negative emotions and thoughts that something shouldn't happen like that. And when we're able to separate ourselves like that and focus our mental energy on something more important, it frees our minds up to redirect our mental energy and focus on getting right back to the task at hand and on being productive. Which brings me to the second way that working moms tend to run into challenges of being productive in face of repeated interruptions is believing the thoughts that we can't simply redirect our attention and quickly return to what we were doing before the interruption. I very often hear from moms that say, well, when we look at the chart and we see, okay, well, you weren't really interrupted every 5 minutes like we initially thought. It was really more like every 25 minutes. And they say, well, it feels like that. And, it just takes me a while to I can't be productive because it takes me so long to get back into the zone, right? We have to get back into the zone before we can focus on anything. And that's where it's really critical to learn how to build the skill of quickly redirecting your attention to the things that are a part of you reaching your daytime working goals. And this could be one of the biggest challenges that you have in terms of staying productive while working from home with your family present. And one of the quickest ways to build that skill is to always remind yourself that the interruption no longer needs your attention or your mental energy. And like we were talking about before, it's no longer a threat, right? It just quickly redirect yourself and remind yourself that it's done and now you're free to focus on the task at hand. Of course, you've probably seen numerous articles and, news stories that multitasking is no longer the big productive thing, that we once thought it was, because we know that, in fact, it's the opposite of, advanced productivity, because the action of switching back and forth between tasks draws down our mental energy and our focus and makes us even less efficient than if we simply stayed focused on one task at a time. So, with that said, yes, managing interruptions does require a little more mental energy than working without them. But focusing on them being a reason for negative emotions and thoughts, again, is optional. And when we're working from home, we can anticipate interruptions as simply something that's bound to happen. And when they do, we don't have to dwell on them, but rather let them go as quickly as they came up and quickly redirect our attention and our focus back on what's more important to us. So while you're doing this work to build up your efficiency skills, also, this is something really important too, is understand that you do not need to pack on the mom guilt if you find yourself feeling frustrated with your kids from time to time, because I hear this too, is, we're frustrated with our kids and then we yell at our kids or we react in other ways that we're not really proud of. And then we feel guilty for it. And then our focus is on feeling guilty. So, we're in this vicious cycle for ourselves. You are a human being, remember that. And you do not need to be a perfect mom at every moment of every day. And you don't need to be a perfectly wildly productive colleague either. So as long as you are out there giving it your best effort every single day and not giving up at the first sign of a challenge, then you are succeeding. And if you can take all of this learning with you as we slowly begin to transition to schools and offices and workplaces and businesses being fully open and life going back to being essentially how it was before the pandemic, yay, you can learn to stay super efficient no matter where you end up working from one day to the next. And you can handle these situations and stay the badass mom that you are with badass productivity and work-life balance to show for it. And you can always choose to fast track this learning for yourself by joining my coaching program, where I work with you and other working moms. Well, I work with working moms like you one-on-one. And we create a program that's tailored to your specific life needs, your specific career demands, your specific home demands and family demands. I help you learn how to make powerful decisions on how to overcome the working mom guilt and burnout and overwhelm that you might be experiencing. And we work on how to reach your goals for a more happy and balanced life. And you can get started with a free 30-minute session that you can get just by going to my website, kellyherdcoaching.com, and click on the free session button in the upper right-hand corner of the website. And I encourage you to get started today. I would say now more than ever, because if you're feeling frustrated now, and everybody's feeling COVID fatigue, basically, but we are gearing up for another big change. And as much as we're looking forward to going back to life pre-pandemic, the changeover is quite possibly going to be really challenging for people. And some people are finding it challenging already. So sign up for coaching now. Get yourself emotionally prepared to handle all of the challenges of these major changes in our life that are about to come and going back to life as we knew it before. So again, sign up today and learn how to handle these challenges before you are hit with them. So thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, then please hit the thumbs up button to like it. And if you're watching this on Facebook, like it and comment below and tell me any other topics that you'd like to learn more about. And I can do some videos on those in the future. So thank you again and have a great day. Bye-bye.